From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm Ken Rice. The battle to attract HQ2, Amazon's second headquarters, continues as we get closer to the end of the year. It was back in January that Pittsburgh was named to the select group of 20 possible host cities, finalists. Since then, officially nothing. Just lots of speculation. Most recently, a writer from Money magazine who picks its annual list of best places says Pittsburgh will fall short at the end of this contest. As John Delano reports, chances are you've never heard of the town he predicts will win the competition.
Forget it, Pittsburgh. Amazon's second headquarters is not coming here, predicts the man best known for picking America's best places for Money magazine.
We're predicting Oatlands, Virginia.
Oatlands, Virginia? Well, not exactly a household name yet, but about an hour or so west of Washington, D.C.
It's a small, unincorporated area in Loudoun County, Virginia. It's out around the Dulles Airport, south of Leesburg, which is the main city in Loudoun County.
With plenty of undeveloped land close to an international airport, Oatlands will allow Amazon to build without the hassles of city life.
Amazon is only going to have many more problems if they locate anywhere close to a major metro area, so it's going to be out away from the metro area.
Sperling admits he does not have any inside information from Amazon, and his speculation does not bother Mayor Peduto.
Trying to figure out what city has an advantage is almost impossible.
If land is all that counts, Pittsburgh might not be first. But when it comes to talent,
we can provide the talent that they're looking for in creating a pipeline over 15 years to be able to fill the jobs that would be needed. And number two, we can do so at a cost of living that is much less expensive than the other cities that we're competing with on the talent basis.
Of course, many here who've protested say Amazon will dislocate too many people, raise housing costs, and hurt average residents. Not everyone is enamored with the idea of Amazon coming to Pittsburgh. In fact, Sperling says when they don't, it may turn out to be a blessing in disguise.
What could happen with Pittsburgh, they get Amazon and it would completely overwhelm the city. Just ask the folks in Seattle how they feel about Amazon. Sperling
predicts a decision from Amazon in the next few weeks. John Delano, KDKA-TV News.
This morning on the KDPG Sunday Edition, a look at the Pittsburgh area economy and our competitiveness with other areas when it comes to attracting employers like Amazon. We'll look at the strengths and weaknesses and see how Pittsburgh is doing as the national economy has rebounded. In many areas, stocks are up, unemployment is down. But what are the short-term and long-term challenges that we still face here? We welcome back two guests to this program, Dr. Gus Fauché, Senior Vice President and Chief Economist for PNC Financial Services Group, and Doug Hoyk wears two hats, editor of Pittsburgh Quarterly, a magazine that looks at the economic state of the Pittsburgh area and profiles some of our most important leaders. Doug is also Program Director of Pittsburgh Today, part of Pitt's Center for Social and Urban Research that measures the health of a number of contributors to our economy. David Shrittman is away this week. Jerry Micco, Senior Assistant Managing Director of the Post-Gazette News Slide, joins us. Jerry, welcome back to the show. Okay. Welcome to both of you. So what do we make of Bert Sperling and his prediction that it's going to be Oatlands, Virginia, and not Pittsburgh? He's really just ruling us out, Gus.
I still think Pittsburgh has some big advantages. Obviously, we're an urban area. Amazon, their Seattle headquarters is downtown. They've indicated a preference for an urban area. So Pittsburgh has some advantages there. We have a big tech economy. We have some great institutions of higher learning. So I still think that Pittsburgh is in the running. There are some drawbacks to Pittsburgh as well, but I wouldn't rule Pittsburgh out at this point.
Amazon in Seattle, I think, is 33 buildings in the downtown area. It couldn't be more different than that rural, pastoral scene there in Northern Virginia. Doug, what do you think of this prediction that it's not us?
Well, I think it's obviously hard to tell. Everyone has a prediction. It's been going on so long. It's, this interminable process. Pittsburgh has a lot of charms. We tend to see them and know what they are: quality of life, the small size, the kind of interconnected, the nice social fabric. The question is whether Amazon sees those things. Gus mentioned a couple of them: universities, this terrific philanthropic community, so that we don't have as many social problems as other places. Relatively a great education system, K through 12, compared to other cities. what does Amazon want? You know, we don't have a crystal ball. We know that it's a great quality of life here. If we get them, we've been starved for jobs for ages, you know, that would be great. If we don't, we're still going to have a high quality of life.
Does Amazon want more than just straight out billions of dollars? Newark is offering $7 billion. Somebody's offering maybe Montgomery County, Maryland is offering over $8 billion. Is it going to come down to much more than that? I mean, that's pretty hard to say. Well, Pittsburgh is very charming, so even though Montgomery County is offering $8 billion and Pittsburgh may be only offering a fraction of that, we're going to choose Pittsburgh. Is it realistic to think that?
I think incentives are going to play a role, but I think much more than that, it's going to be those types of things that we were discussing. It's going to be what kind of quality of life can their employees have? What access do they have to the international economy? The key thing is access to skilled labor. That's really the most important thing for Amazon. So they can have all the incentives in the world, but if the workers aren't there, then Amazon isn't going to choose that place.
Well, those are two strengths for us, clearly. Quality of life, cost of living, and labor force. But you guys talk to people. You're plugged in. It's been a year since Amazon announced they were going to do this. It's been since January that Pittsburgh was named a finalist. They have said officially they're going to do this, they're going to name this by the end of the year. In that time, would you say the local mood is becoming more or less optimistic? What's your take?
We just got results in there, unofficial, from a regional quality of life survey. We surveyed some 2,000 Allegheny County residents. One of the questions, the new questions, we did this in 2011, was, what do you think of Amazon? And the numbers, as I recall, are 68% are in favor of it, and something like 29% are not in favor. So, you know, it's pretty strong support for the notion. Interestingly enough, is from what I recall, the group least in favor were low-income people. I have no idea why, but generally that's pretty strong support.
But what I'm asking is, yes, I get you, but do you think that the sense among the power structure locally is that this is going to happen? And is that a stronger sense today, or is it a weaker sense today compared to when we were first named a finalist? And I'll let you jump in.
You know, I think that there's a sense of realism. I think that people understand that Pittsburgh has these advantages, but Pittsburgh also has some disadvantages. I don't think anyone is counting on this. I think the view is that there's very stiff competition, that Amazon is looking at a huge number of factors, that Pittsburgh scores well in some, doesn't score well in others, and that, yes, there's a possibility that we can get it, but no one is hanging their hat on that.
You know, John in his report mentioned the downside. Seattle said there's a downside to this. Seattle and Pittsburgh are similar cities in some ways, population and area. What is the downside? What does Seattle cite in these numbers, Doug? Does anyone cite the downside? Do they think Pittsburgh, that Amazon would bring to Pittsburgh?
One of the key problems is housing affordability. So we've seen a huge increase in housing costs in Seattle, both purchasing homes and renting homes. So, you know, they're adding huge numbers of workers every week. They're putting up apartment buildings as fast as they can, but still we're seeing rents rise, we're seeing house prices rise, and that's pricing out people who have lived in Seattle for years, and rightfully so. They're concerned about that, and I think we could see a similar sort of impact if Amazon were to locate their second headquarters in Pittsburgh.
And one of the charms of Pittsburgh is this social fabric, this notion that people are friendly here, that, you know, we have the lowest crime rate among all the top cities in the United States. And part of it's because people have been here for a long time, relatively speaking. We're not a coastal city. We, you know, for the last 30 years, we're kind of out of business for new jobs, so we weren't getting all sorts of people coming in over the transom. So people know each other and they treat each other better. It may be with an influx of 50,000 new people, because a lot of them would come from elsewhere, because our unemployment rate is Allegheny County, something like 3.7%. So not a lot of excess here. With all those people, you would see change. You'd see a lot of development, the housing price costs certainly, but also you'd see a change in the social fabric. That would be the flip side to the big economic shot in the arm we'd get.
That would, if I could follow that real quick, Northern Virginia is known, and I know Boston has also come up a lot as a place. Those are two markets, and I used to live in the Bay Area. Here's another one. Of course, I'm not talking about that. Housing prices are already high. I can't imagine what would happen if you moved out to that, if that place near Dulles was selected. Wouldn't the housing prices already be high and it would just be pushed higher?
Absolutely, and certainly that is going to be a concern for Amazon. I think that they would have a lower cost structure in Pittsburgh or some of the other smaller metropolitan areas that they're looking at, Indianapolis, Columbus, compared to those big coastal areas where there are just a lot more people and a lot more price pressure. So certainly that is something that Amazon will take into account when they make their decision.
And housing costs, we're seen as a relatively lower cost of living region. And one of the reasons we always are lower cost is because our housing, which is a chief component of that measure, our housing costs are lower here. So we have, if we went up, we would still not be anywhere near a lot of the super expensive places.
One of the things they used to say about Pittsburgh is that the people who have lived here for a long time don't see it the same way that newcomers see it. Newcomers see this, this gorgeous topography, this beautiful skyline, and they see all this potential. And, maybe the people who are here don't fully appreciate all of our attributes. That, to me, and this is just one man's opinion, seems to have changed. It seems to have evolved. Pittsburghers, I think, are more and more proud, and they recognize that this is a place people do want to be. We have a lot of advantages. Is that borne out, though, in the numbers, in the benchmarks that you look at? I mean, are we really that much better off in terms of our attractiveness to a major employer than Columbus, than Indianapolis, than Austin?
Well, it depends what you're looking at. So I mentioned crime. Being a safe city is very important to everybody. The food amenities and the general amenities, whether it's the sports teams, whether it's the, unusually good cultural offerings we have here because of the philanthropic efforts, the universities, the outdoors, those are all terrific things, the K through 12 system. The area where we're not Austin, Texas, which has in the last 4 years added something like 240,000 jobs, or last 4 year people, I should say. Over the last 4 years, we lost about 8,000 people. So we're not a teeming, bustling place where people are dying to get there. We're a place like the Dutch, who had their empire several centuries ago. We had our empire 100 years ago. We're a more refined place where there are charms that, that appeal to people who like that. And I mean, depends what you're looking for. We presumably all think it's a great place to live. We've been here. We know what those charms are, the quality of life. It's a great place to live. That's seen in the ratings.
It took a while for us to get there, though.
Sure.
And there's still obviously lots of inequality within this region that we feel so good about. Let's take a break, come back with more on the KDPG Sunday edition in just a moment.